Hey guys, it is September 24th, 2012, Wednesday, which means Comics Day. Got a slightly smaller stack, but it's not always a bad thing, smaller, less time to read, kind of quicker, gotta finish it up on the subway, but I did ride the subway a lot today, went to mom's apartment to pick up my new bike over there, which I'm really quite fond of already. It's really pretty, I think. Maybe you disagree. I don't want to hear it. My bike. Anywho, comics. Yes. Still need a name. So if you have a good name for bicycles, leave them in the comments, and I will take them into consideration. So anyway, first comic this week: Spider-Man Learning to Crawl .5 or 5, number 5. I don't know. Anyway, last issue of this arc. So I guess we'll review the arc in total, and overall I really liked it. Like what struck me, I guess, the most was this was kind of like a Spider-Man year one. It's him kind of facing his first supervillain, or over the course of the story he fights more than one like powered villain guy. But anyway, he's fighting one of his first supervillains and gaining one of his first rivals, who's I'm pretty sure a completely new villain. This guy over here called Clash, who is inspired by Spider-Man. He sees Spider-Man wrestling and winning, and he's the first autograph Spider-Man ever signs. So he's like this huge fan. It's like, I can be a superhero too. So he does, and he doesn't have the Uncle Ben thing to teach him responsibility. So he kind of spins off and becomes a villain, and now Peter has to face this new threat who initially seems, bigger and tougher than him. And he goes through that whole, crisis of character, crisis of conscience. Can I do this? Am I just inspiring people to, behave badly? And it's done in that kind of old comic art style too. I'm gonna try to find a good page of it that doesn't spoil too much, although I pretty much gave away a lot of the premise. But let me find a good one. Here we go. Here's a nice comic-y panel, or spread, whatever. So it's done in this like nice old style. Really, it just kind of reminded me, and it is a year one thing. So yeah, no, I really enjoyed the whole story. If you're a Spider-Man fan, pick it up. This is pretty much like the kind of year one story for this character since he's back and they rebooted Amazing Spider-Man. And I love what Dan Slott's been doing with this character ever since he took over I want to say the Spider-Verse, but that's a different thing that we will get to. So yeah, no, I just totally enjoyed it. If you're a Spider-Man fan, pick it up. I think you'll really enjoy it too. There you go. Moving on to Spider-Verse, which I just said we'll get to if you were paying attention. And like the other two Spider-Verse books, this one just chronicles the story of a Spider-Man from an alternate universe. This is, as you can see on the cover, Aaron Eichmann. Eichmann, I don't know. Who I'm pretty sure is the Spider-Man from in the 60s. I think or the 70s. There was a Japanese Spider-Man show in Japan, completely live action, that later went on to inspire the Super Sentai and Power Rangers and Kamen Rider and all that. And I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure this is kind of that Spider-Man, but taken to a new level, as you can probably tell from the cover, although you can tell better from the inside art. It's anime influenced, or manga influenced rather. You kind of get that Japanese kind of, I don't know, it's not exactly a manga style, but it's definitely more manga influenced than your standard Spider-Man book. And even the costume, I got shades of kind of, I don't know if you can see it better on the cover, I got kind of shades of like a Mega Man or Astro Boy. And you can see in the page I just flipped back, lots of flipping back and forth, they kind of do that whole specs thing they do in the early Astro Boy comics, where you have like the inside details. And this is probably the weakest of the Spider-Verse books, or the Edge of Spider-Verse books so far, because it does have kind of that style over substance tone. I mean, I happen to enjoy manga, so I kind of enjoyed the style, like that neat halfway point between Eastern and Western comic books. Um, but the story itself is just, it's not entirely as strong as the others. Characters aren't as strong as the others. The plot, they even do the Akira Lightwave things, which I really like. Akira Red Bike, how about that? Maybe that's a good name for it. Anywho, so it really is, like I said, style over substance. Plot's really thin. Anyone can pretty much figure it out. You know, like the quote unquote twist. I think it's not bad. Again, it's just it's not. You know, it feels unsubstantial almost. I guess is the best way to put it. Um, like it doesn't even really tie in as much to the other Spider-Verse books. I guess the other Spider-Verse books didn't really tie into the overall Spider-Verse story quite yet. Anywho, I happen to really enjoy this. Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry, I was thinking of the last one. I happen to enjoy this enough to like not regret picking it up. But this is probably the most skippable one so far. Sorry, I sound like just a bunch of canned responses, canned responses, canned responses, canned responses. No, but moving on to The Flash, Future's End. We're on the DC universe now. You can see we go from Barry to the new Wally West. Barry Allen, Wally West, Barry Allen, Wally West. And this, so far, seems to have, I think, the strongest ties to the non-Future's End story of all the Future's End tie-ins so far. Because in the normal Flash book, they're already doing a time travel story with a Flash running back in time to try and change events. So this doesn't really tie into like the whole Brother Eye stuff at all. This really just feels like an issue of the Flash. And I mean, to that, I guess, and I enjoyed it. I haven't been enjoying the Flash as much since the previous team left it. The art has a lot to do with it. Also, the stories feel more action-oriented instead of kind of emotional or they just feel, I guess, you can tell just by the palette, they feel kind of darker, but not necessarily more mature. Which, you know, isn't always a bad thing. I like my just kind of action comics too. Action comics, I'm full of it today. But it's continuing a story. This arc I haven't been that interested in since the beginning. And honestly, this issue, the big thing seems to be they're finally making Wally West the Flash, as they promised on the cover. And they're also doing another thing that Barry Allen is very famous for. I'm not going to spoil it. But they seem to be doing a very, let's just say, repeating something that went over a whole lot better when it was done the first time and just doesn't feel as heavy as it did the first time they did it. So again, if you're already reading Flash, if you're already invested in that story, this is just an issue in that story. It's not really skippable, you know, if you're ignoring the Future's End thing, because it really has nothing to do with Future's End right now. But if you're not invested in the Flash, don't, you know, it's not really worth it picking this one up. Moving on to Superman, Earth's Future's End. Sorry, Superman Future's End, which isn't so much about Superman as it is about that guy who we learn is actually Captain Marvel, Shazam. They're calling him Shazam now. I still want to call him Captain Marvel, but he's Shazam, and it takes place after Lois Lane writes her story revealing this is Shazam the whole time. It's not Superman, and kind of dealing with the fallout of that. People now aren't, you know, they don't like Shazam anymore. They feel he's just been pulling a fast one over on them. They kind of don't trust him anymore, which is very believable. But he's, you know, having lots of trouble dealing with that. And so Lois Lane tries to talk to him about it, and we see probably something that will have a pretty large effect in Future's End going forward is that Billy Batson decides, okay, I'm just going to be Captain Marvel from now on. He sheds the Superman identity at the end of the story completely, and he kind of forgives Lois. It's like, thanks for telling me I have to be myself instead of Superman. And we find out, we got a little more hints about what Superman did that caused him to abandon Earth. Still not telling us what he did exactly, but we get a couple more drops, in the well, I guess. I don't know. Is that an expression? But I mean, I liked it. I do like Billy Batson more than I thought I would in the New 52 because he started off as just a huge jerk for no reason, and now he's a lot more bearable. He's a lot more mature in this. I think that that probably has something to do with my enjoying him more. And but yeah, skippable if you're expecting a Superman story. If you just want a nice kind of Shazam story, a nice maybe a Lois Lane story, this is a pretty good one. But and it ties into Future's End more than a lot of these other ones do. So if you want to, I mean, they'll probably cover it in the Future's End normal book, but I don't know, kind of skippable probably. It's not extraordinary. I happen to like the art in this one, but I can see it being kind of divisive. It's kind of washed out. Like everything looks tired, which I think is appropriate for this book because it's very kind of PTSD-y. Plus, I like kind of the Captain Marvel eyes. I like the old kind of Fawcett Comics, like very narrow eyes that they have on him. But yeah, like no strong feelings one way or the other about it. Now we get to probably the most interesting book of the week, Booster Gold, Future's End. I believe this is Booster Gold's reintroduction into the New 52 since they canceled Justice League International. I could be wrong about that. And this one follows a completely different Booster Gold anyway. The reason I think this is the most interesting is because through this comic, they're basically touring a bunch of the multiverse. So we start off in Gotham by Gaslight over here, and then we move on to I don't know. Let me find like a good example. We get a little bit of a flash to the current New 52 Earth, as you can see, Superman, Wonder Woman kissing on the TV there, and then we get transported to like very classic, I think Golden Age kind of hub city, because you have Ted Cord you see in the Beetle Mobile. I don't know what it's called actually. Slipping my mind right now. But the Beetle flyer, you have Kamandi at the last team in shot. I forgot what the book is called. I know it's Kamandi or Kamandi. I say Kamandi. I don't know why. Just sounds better. But we have Kamandi over here, who hasn't been introduced, I think, in the New 52 yet. And then, of course, you do get a flash forward or a flash sideways, because I don't know exactly how this is working, to the current Booster Gold and the current kind of, Future's End story. And yeah, I mean, I can't tell right now. DC seems to want to just get rid of the New 52. They want to. It seems a lot like a Crisis, this whole thing. You have Multiversity going on, which I'm pretty sure is separate, but maybe it's tied into all this. You already have Earth and Earth 2. You have Earth 1, which is the completely different, but they're still continuing that parallel to the New 52 books. So yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure what they're doing. I'm curious though, because they are starting to include the multiverse after collapsing everything for the New 52, sensing a little air of regret maybe in that respect. But if they do bring back all the old canon, I'm looking forward to it. I enjoyed that stuff immensely. So I know some people say they're being kind of cowardly, they're not sticking with their guns, but sometimes just admitting you're wrong is the best strategy. It'll get you the most flies for your honey. I don't know. I can't do analogies or metaphors today. I'm sorry. I'm excited about my bike. It's kind of fried my brain. Moving on to Future's End number 21. Sorry. I was looking at the next book. This is Future's End number 21. and as you can tell on the cover, mainly focuses on Green Arrow, who we find out is indeed alive and is about to stage a full frontal assault on Cadmus Island. But the majority of this book actually is a flashback where we find out kind of what happened to bring the Earth 2 heroes to the not Earth 2. I'm going to call it just Earth Prime, I guess. Except Prime is a different, I don't know. It's a New 52 Earth. There we go. So you get basically a flashback of how all of those heroes arrived to New 52 Earth. And it doesn't mean much now, because it's just kind of the beginning, and we've only seen like the very end, but we're not, like, basically we find out how they got, you know, why they fled, which we all kind of already know. It's the Apocalypse War, Dark Side, and all that. We find out how they were treated, how Cadmus got a hold of all of them. It's stuff that was heavily implied in the past, but now we're getting, you know, here's concrete, this is definitely what happened. You know, until they change it up again, which, I don't know, I might do, you know, for a twist. So, lots of backtracking right before the end of the book where they decide, okay, we'll storm the island. And then that's pretty much the end. Seems like kind of a key piece in the Future's End puzzle. You know, you get definite what went on, you know, in the past, what's leading up to this moment. But pretty boring just as a standalone. They're just telling us about things that was implied. It's you know, lots of filling in cracks, not much going forward. I don't know. Like, it's not easy to say skippable, because if you've been keeping up with Future's End, this does have some key pieces that you'll probably need going forward, but it's not a good book on its own. Moving on to Batman Eternal, number 25. Big Hush on the cover, so there's that spoiler. Hush is behind most of this. And basically what we have here focuses on Red Robin and Harper Row, I'd say is the main focus of this issue. There in the beginning where we see they're back in Gotham, and Red Robin is convinced that Harper doesn't need her tools anymore. They're getting very friendly. We also have Jason Bard, the new commissioner, stirring up trouble, throwing citizens into panic by getting it published in the newspaper that the government's not doing anything, that these have all been really large-scale terrorist attack, and, you know, getting martial law declared, finally, which is, of course, part of his endgame. Because martial law means he has all this power now that he can abuse, blah, blah, blah. You also have Batman running into Hush, or a hologram of Hush, kind of confronting him for the first time in the story. And let me remove that. That gross? No, that's not gross. It's just maintenance. Anywho, Batman running into Hush for the first time in this story. And then that's pretty much the end. It's a pretty quick book. You have Red Robin and Harper in the beginning, then you have Red Robin and Jason Todd catching up. You have a little bit with Barbara, not too much, and then you have Batman and Hush at the end. And that's about it. Slowly moving forward, more so than Future's End did. Not a great book, kind of a, you know, it's a breather after what happened last issue. Last issue was amazing. So it's a bit of a breather from that. Can't really complain, you know, it's all pacing. You can't have too much at a time. You'll get stuffed and vomit. But yeah, keep on reading. You know, not by any means a bad issue, just a breather. Just a slow kind of, okay, we had a really big issue last time, let's keep the pace going, let's slow it down, let's not burn ourselves out. Unlike Hush, who's burning everything on the cover. Funny, funny. And the last book this week is Saga, number 23, chapter 23. They're calling it chapter, I'm calling it number because it's a comic book. Really nice cover over here, kind of reminiscent of that one picture of the guy painting the self-portrait while looking in a mirror, and the whole thing's big. I like that painting. Can't remember what it's called though. Anywho, Saga 23. And to be honest, I'm still feeling that punch in the gut from issue 19, the very end of issue 19. And this covers more of that. You can see just first page over here what they're trying to set up. And this book is very good at, drawing you in, making you think you know what's going to happen, and then kind of subverting it. And it doesn't feel like a cheat because you know these characters, and once they subvert it, like, oh yeah, this is what that character would do. This character was established to be a certain way, and it makes sense in the long run. It makes sense when you think about it. And despite just kind of this outrageous universe that they have with all these alien creatures, everything still feels so human. Everything is very relatable and very touching, despite all the fantastical elements. And you have a really big shift in the status quo by the end of this book. This kind of volume, I guess, opens up with, this is how my parents split up. And then, I don't want to say that happens in this book, but we definitely get a taste of what that might mean, not exactly what you're expecting, perchance. I really enjoyed it. Saga's still, like 2 years ago, it was one of the best books coming out. It still is. Brian K. Vaughan really knows how to write these things. He gives you the fantastical, and he gives you the very human and the very emotional and the very close to the heart stuff in the same book. Like boom, right after the other. You got half a ghost nanny, and then you get the very emotional kind of relationship-y stuff. So if you're not reading Saga by now, pick it up. I'm sure a lot of it's in trade. The trade's only $10, I think, each, and you get like 6 books. So definitely worth it. This is going to be like an instant classic. Already is, in my opinion. And that is the end for today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you'll join me next week, where we can talk about comics some more. Thanks for watching.